Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you Amishi for having me. Thank you Kay for the nomination. I think you've already covered the intro pretty well, so I won't dwell much on that. So just for my background, I'm a graphic designer. I come from a family fluent in numbers. Both my parents are chartered accountants. My sister is an economist. And I, on the other hand, have always been scared of numbers. Growing up, my worst nightmare was always my father quizzing me on mental maths at the dining table. When I went to design school, I realized I wasn't the only one. One would assume designers are very technically accurate people, but almost every designer I've ever met is scared of numbers or intimidated by them. My life changed significantly when my sister introduced me to this book called Dear Data. Dear Data is a collection of postcards featuring data recorded from the everyday lives of information designers Georgia Lupi and Stephanie Pozovic. For the first time in my life, numbers did not scare me, and I was able to understand them. This opened up my whole world to new possibilities, and I was hooked. So, my last years of college were always based on projects in information design or data visualization. I started with mapping personal data, such as how many times I said sorry, thank you, please, etc., until I had the opportunity to work with refugees from all around the world, translating their journeys into a set of beautiful data visualizations. The goal was to look at refugees not as numbers, but as humans. The project was very well received and it was displayed at the London Design Festival in 2019. Same as Ashwin, 2020 brought me back home and I was sort of forced to be in the lockdown and at home. And this headline really caught my eye. India had lost more people to suicide than COVID in 2020. Intrigued, I looked up the full data report published by the National Crime Records Bureau of India. And the report presented the data in a way that reduced people to numbers, and nobody I showed it to wanted to read it. So I thought I'll reimagine it. I added color and texture to the numbers. I created a visual narrative that conveyed the subject even before delving into the data. It was my personal interpretation of the statistics, and I posted this on social media without expecting much of a response. But I was wrong. A lot of people were drawn to the data and engaged with the whole piece. They even asked me where they could read the whole report. So the problem was how complex and boring the previous visualization looked. Encouraged by the response, I applied the same process to another headline that caught my eye. The government had increased the legal age of marriage for females in India from 18 to 21. This prompted me to examine the whole concept of marriages in India, a country where marriage is often seen as a family matter more than an individual one. So, at what age do people get married in India? What do they look for in a partner? Where do they find partners? What percentage of marriages in India are arranged? I had assumed that love marriages would be the norm in urban India, and after researching the piece, I realized I was very wrong. 93% of India still believes in the concept of arranged marriages. As a part of my research, I examined the adjectives commonly used in matrimonial ads to describe the ideal bride and groom. My list highlighted the most frequently recurring adjectives in one matrimonial page. I think my favorite is still God fearing. The most common comment I receive when people read this, I need to show this to my parents. They're forcing me to get married. This is also my most celebrated, and I think this the piece which gets sold out the fastest because it affects a lot of people my age, I'm guessing. The next issue that caught my eye was the growing politics of food in our country. This included numerous beef bans, meat shops being shut down during Navratri, the killings in the name of Hinduism, and more recently, the green fleet rolled out by Zomato. I was curious to examine if India is truly a vegetarian country, as proclaimed by our beloved ruling party. Once again, my worldview was corrected. Some facts I learned were 71% of Indians over the age of 15 are non vegetarians. 86% of those killed in cow related violence since 2010 are Muslims. Meat consumption in India has actually increased over the last few years. And I think my favorite statistic is 72% of Hindus believe that a person cannot be Hindu if they eat beef, but fewer express the same sentiment about someone who does not believe in God. Again, reading this made me curious to examine religion in India. I found an interesting survey conducted by the Pew Research Center between 2019 and early 2020, examining the religious beliefs of around 30,000 Indians. Some new things I learned were 97% of Indians say they believe in God, and roughly 80% of people in most religious groups are absolutely certain that God exists. The main exception is Buddhists, one third of whom say they do not believe in God. For many Hindus, national identity, religion, and language are very closely connected. Nearly two-thirds of Hindus say it's very important to be Hindu to be truly Indian. 70% say that most or all of their close friends share their caste. And I think the last piece I will discuss today has also been one of the most disturbing ones I've ever worked on. Between 2019 and 2021, 13 lakh Indian girls went missing in India. I once again found a report published by NCRB that contained information about these missing women. The data was stored in a tabular format detailing each missing person's name, age, height, complexion, facial features, body type, and the place where they were last seen. The image quality of each picture was very different. Some of them were quite pixelated, some of them were half cut. Sometimes two different names were assigned to the same image. In order to create visual hierarchy, I used a halftone effect for the faces. Halftone allowed for a certain play. The further you see the face from, the clearer it looks. I wanted to create a piece where the sheer number of missing girls hits you, where each identity and detail is given significance. The result was a giant book consisting of 250 faces that you can browse through, urging readers to perceive these individuals not as mere numbers, but as unique faces with stories to tell. The contrast between the halftone and the color of the pages also reduces as you reach the end of the book and the faces disappear or are forgotten. The book also made me think of what we are remembered by if we go missing tomorrow. Are we reduced to our heights, complexions, faces, attires? Over the past 4 years, I've made 20 of such booklets. Last year, I finally decided to produce them and take them out into the world. Making them gives me a chance to research deeply about topics I'm interested in and a much needed break from client work, and also an opportunity to correct my worldview and perspective. Distributing them and talking to them with different people over the past year has given me a lot of insights on how people think and how graphic design can help in making something more engaging and introspective. I'd like to conclude by saying that I don't think graphic design can save the world, but I think it can definitely help people make more informed choices. This is my humble attempt. Thank you.